He just fell in the pool. He's been in the pool maybe 2-3 minutes.
Okay, how old is he?
He's 1 year old.
Okay, I've got someone on the way. Is he breathing?
No, he's not.
When a child goes into the water, there's a bit of a struggle, there's some panic, and then they slip under and it's a silent act. You don't hear it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go back to his mouth and give him 1 breath. Give him 1 breath. Go back to the head.
Usually when we walk in the door within the first couple of minutes, we've got a real good idea how the outcome's going to be.
He was Mama's boy. I remember whenever I'd pick him up from the babysitter, he'd run, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." I mean, he was my life.
The family's grief felt by many tonight when rescuers couldn't save.
The son of a Tempe firefighter, Weston was left alone in the family's backyard for a few minutes.
It could happen to anybody. It isn't about bad parents. It's about a combinations of things going wrong that create a drowning.
But the heartache doesn't stop there.
A senseless and most preventable tragedy is claiming the lives of our Valley children at what safety experts are calling an epidemic. Drownings for children under the age of 5 are at an all-time high in Maricopa County, and those numbers top the charts for child drownings in this country.
We're losing kids. We're seeing double-digit numbers of children under the age of 5 drowning. That's like a small classroom each summer that drowns. That's hard for us in public safety to accept.
The dynamics of a drowning begin with a loss of focus. It can happen when a parent goes and brushes his teeth or to the bathroom, or when a mom answers the front door. You think your child is watching television. Your 20-month-old who couldn't open the back door yesterday is quite capable today, but you don't know it and have taken your eyes off of him for just a few seconds. There's no barrier to this pool, and it is a straight line into the water.
It was May 31st, 1998, a beautiful, sunny day outside. It was in the afternoon, and our family had decided to have a family barbecue.
Drew Ann Letter of Gilbert told her 3-year-old son Weston he could go to the store with her to buy things for the afternoon barbecue. The 10-week-old twin girls were napping. She and Weston would leave in 15 minutes. In the meantime, Drew Ann sent him outside to play with his daddy, a Tempe firefighter. A few minutes later, Tom Letter came inside.
Tom walked back in. I heard the door close, and I heard him say, "Weston fell in the pool." Was he screaming? No, he wasn't. He said, "Weston fell in the pool." I mean, if I had to look at it now, it was not a typical Weston fell in the pool. But at that time, I didn't think anything. So I said, "Okay, hold on, let me get you a towel." And that was where my mindset was. I never thought that that meant anything bad. And he said, "No, it's a lot worse than that. 911's on the phone, and you need to come take the phone." So I ran out of the den and saw him in the hallway, and he was holding Weston. And he was hanging there. I mean, I knew at that point that it was really, really serious.
Tom performed CPR before paramedics arrived. Realizing how serious it was, nothing prepared the Letters for what they would learn at the hospital. Weston was dead.
This one nurse, I'll never forget her. She came over and she said, "I'm going to get you a rocking chair and you need to hold him." And I said, no, I can't. And she said, "Yes, you need to hold him." So finally I said, "Okay," and they brought me a rocking chair and they put him in my arms and I held him. And it was probably the best thing I ever did.
The Letters' pool was fenced off from the main part of the house, but not from the garage.
I mean, now I think back, well, God, Dren, you had a sign right there. Why didn't you, I did. I had, my own words if I would have listened to them, but I never thought it could happen. How could it happen to me? We're the overprotective parents. We're the parents who people look at and say, you need to be a little bit laid back because your kid's not going to be normal.
Drew-Ann says an umbrella of grief follows her and her husband wherever they go, but they don't blame each other.
I'm as equally as guilty as Tom is. I shouldn't have sent Weston out there. I should have walked out with him. If I were to blame him, I think it would cause even more destruction to our lives.
Child drownings literally tear families apart. Without counseling, it is reported more than 90% of couples that lose a child to a drowning divorce.
I think when you have drowning affect your life, you not only have the loss of a child, which is horrible, but you have the guilt, you have the blame, and bottom line, it's preventable. And we did not do enough. And that enough is we didn't do what you and I are doing right now, and that's constant eye-to-eye contact.
60% of drowning victims are children 6 months to 4 years old. 75% of them drown in their own swimming pools. 85% of them drown at their home or friends. 75% of the time, the attributed cause is poor supervision and no pool barrier. In 77% of child drownings, the child was out of sight for 5 minutes or less. Most children younger than 6 were being supervised by one or both parents.
Did you see the new pinwheel? Yeah. Where's Weston's?
Drew-Ann will never fully recover over her son's drowning, but she has found an outlet for her grief.
And I remember I put my hand on his casket and I told him that I would never forget him and that I would let nothing bad come from his death, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing work-wise. What are you doing? What are you doing? Come on, you hug.
Besides being a mom to 3-year-old twins, Drew-Ann co-founded Water Watchers, a nonprofit organization that educates the public about water safety issues. She is also the drowning prevention and awareness coordinator for Phoenix Children's Hospital. Who's at risk for having a drowning or near drowning at their home? According to the Phoenix Fire Department, if you are a new parent or caregiver, new owners of a pool, new residents of the valley, if there are multiple children around the pool, if there are a lack of barriers, such as a fence or other safety precautions around the pool, climbable furniture or ladders near a fence or pool, toys, and other water hazards at the home, such as coolers, buckets, bathtubs, and toilets.
We've had children that have drowned while their parents were in the swimming pool with them. And they're paying attention to a 4 or 5-year-old at one end while the 2-year-old slips in at the steps. And we've seen that consistently just about every season for the last 3 seasons.
Tom Leander has 3 children.
It's very easy to get distracted. I mean, especially when you've got 3 kids, you can be playing with the 2 older ones and all of a sudden the little one kind of starts to escape a little bit. But you just have to remind yourself every time you head to the pool just to keep your eyes open all the time.
Did you go that way? Did you go that way?
Firefighters have seen it all too often. The more people around a pool, the more distractions.
So if you're going to have a pool party or a barbecue, make sure that you always have someone in the pool area that is the designated water watcher. Loss of focus is the #1 reason for drownings.
It's hard on the firefighters and paramedics that have to respond to a drowning. They don't forget.
Drowning scenes are probably among the most stressful types of calls to work on as a paramedic, just from the standpoint of the scene being usually so chaotic. You've heard the 911 tapes, the screaming, the hysterical.
Fire department, what's the location of your emergency? Okay. Yeah, we have a child in the pool, please. You need to calm down. Please, it's not breathing.
I don't even have a word to describe it. It just gut-wrenching noise that you hear on those 911 tapes. That doesn't stop when we get there, usually.
For 6 years, paramedic Tim Gift worked at the city's busiest fire station for drownings, Station 25, on the city's west side. It got to him, as it gets to all of them.
It's hard on us as far as firefighters. There's no firefighters that I know that can go and it doesn't affect you, because you see these children and You see your daughters, your sons, your nieces, and your nephews.
The firefighters see their own children and the children that they're doing CPR on. There is nothing good about going to a drowning call.
So what happens to a child that is trapped underwater? It is a horrific picture. She can't scream because her natural instinct is to hold her breath. Oftentimes, she doesn't take water in her lungs right away because her vocal cords spasm down so no water can pass into her lungs. As she struggles, she uses up all her oxygen that is stored in her lungs and passes out. Her heart still beats. 5 minutes underwater, her bodily functions and brain start to shut down. Doctors estimate after about 10 minutes, her vocal cords begin to relax. Water then can re-enter the lungs at this time. Even if the heart can be restarted, the child has suffered irreversible damage. That's why safety experts say knowing CPR is so critical. For near-drowning victims, the end result can be far more emotional than even death. Mother Nature doesn't give these victims a second chance either.
Right now, the nurse's aide is giving Angela her nutrition by a tube that goes into her stomach.
Angela was 3 years old when she nearly drowned. She is 19 years old now. Near-drowning victims don't usually survive this long. And because Angela must have 24-hour care, her home is a long-term care facility. Angela's parents live far away. Rarely do they visit her.
And a lot of it's just too painful to come to see your child.
Susan Rich is Angela's respiratory therapist.
Because Angela has a lot of secretions, she doesn't have a cough anymore. It's like a gag reflex. We have to take a catheter and go down into her trach and suction the secretions out.
Ready?
For the average person, this is hard to watch.
And I'll go down into her lungs and pick up the secretions that she can't get out herself.
At night, Angela must now have the help of a ventilator in order to breathe.
All right, Ange, let's take you off.
Does Angela know what's going on? It's hard to say, but medical experts doubt it. Tara is another near-drowning victim living at Hacienda de Los Angeles. She was 1.5 years when she crawled out of a partially open door into the backyard pool. Tara is now 17.
As far as her prognosis, is she going to get any better? No, she's not.
Angela and Tara, once perfect, healthy girls. Long-term care for near-drowning victims is estimated as high as $180,000 a year. For lifetime care for victims under 15 years of age, up to $4.5 million. For every child who drowns, an additional 4 children are hospitalized for near drowning. These shocking numbers and statistics frustrate the emergency and medical communities. The big question, what has to happen to make people change the way they live their lives, especially around water? News radio station KTAR in Phoenix, known for its 2 seconds is too long public service announcements on drowning awareness, felt that campaign had lost its effectiveness. So it came up with new announcements that have definitely gotten the public's attention.
This is Bob Kahn with Phoenix Fire. This is what it sounds like to lose a child.
Can you hear me?
Recorded during a 911 call after the parents found their 2-year-old face down in a pool.
The first one, the 911 call, was originally done last year, but our management then pulled it. They thought it was too hard-hitting. And we're under new ownership, and the new ownership was more than supportive of running it.
This is Bob Kahn with Phoenix Fire, with a question for you. What goes through a child's mind as they drown?
Where's my mommy? Can you see me? I'm falling. Mommy, help me. I can't.
The second one was more of a conceptual thing. I was sitting around thinking, what goes through a child's mind as they're drowning? And the reason I thought of that was because on the news one evening, Bob Kahn was reporting on yet another drowning and said, you know, the thing that he can't get out of his mind is the thought of that child realizing that they're in trouble and that they can't do anything. They're, you know, no one's there to help them.
Last year, 28 children drowned in the valley. But what about the survivors?
She just lay there. We have to move her. This is just to suction her. She can't cough.
What we're trying to do now in the third one, which is more of a follow-up, a lot of people think that when a child survives a drowning, or they call it a near drowning, that the next day they're out shooting hoops, and they're not.
And listeners' reactions to the new announcements?
At first it was very negative. At first the reaction was, how could you run this? This is, you know, irresponsible of KTAR to run this. You know, you're supposed to set a standard in the community. And then suddenly the reaction started to shift to, wow, this is a great public service, more power to you. Hey, can I get a copy of that for friends in California?
It's not about easy listening. It's not about a message that people tune out. We wanted to get people's attention. We wanted to get the attention of parents and grandparents, caregivers, aunts and uncles. It's watching your kids around water. And if you don't, this is what happens, and it's not a pleasant thing.
Children are drawn to water. They are like magnets to it. They see way past a pool fence.
1 out of 4 drownings is going to revolve around a pool fence. There can be pool fences that are in disrepair, that the fencing's broken down or the gate isn't working properly.
Kahn says you should constantly make sure your pool fence is secure.
We've had this one repaired a couple of times because it's gotten off its hinge or its weight distribution wasn't working, so it didn't close all the way. So you just have to make sure that when you're not in the pool, that everything's closed off and not accessible for the kids. And when you are in the pool, just don't take your eyes off them.
So many people feel that when they have a pool fence, that's it. Everything's okay and their child is going to be safe. But that's absolutely not the case. It's a false sense of security.
You can see that. It's the last line of defense. It has to be properly installed to code. There's a few things to think about, and it needs to be working properly to keep those children out of the swimming pool area.
So let's look at your pool fence and see if this is actually going to work to keep the children out.
What we did with this fence is put in a magnet lock with a self-closing, self-latching gate. The fence is 5 feet high. It's spaced appropriately so it's non-climbable. And if you pull up on the magnet lock, you can see it opens, shuts, and it grabs, and it has a locking mechanism so that you can lock it in place. And that's what we're talking about. 3-4-year-old probably couldn't open this, but if you lock it, you're guaranteed to know that they can't get inside. Then you need to look at all the different variables as far as constructing the fence. Once you have the right height, self-closing, self-latching gate itself, that it's spaced properly, and that you have only a 2-inch clearance to the bottom of the fence, you want to look at your landscaping, the area around the fence, and make sure that it's appropriate, that you're not going to have a place where a child can climb up and get over.
I notice over here at the far end of your yard, there is, the pool fence is actually higher.
Part of what we had with the landscape was a flower bed to the rear here, and if you look at the level of the fence, we wanted to elevate it so it was still a challenge. If we kept the height the same straight back so that it would look right, it would have been accessible to a child going over the top of it.
Sure, the child could have easily climbed on this planter box wall.
Right.
And that would have only been that much space.
Sure, and a jungle gym expert could clear that without a problem. So what we did is we brought it up so that it was going to be 5 feet from the top of the planter here and create a challenge for the child to get through the fence area.
I also notice over here where you have a huge tree and the pool fence keeps the child from actually having access to the tree.
Initially, I designed the fence to go to the outside of the tree, and the contractor said what you want to do is keep the fence on this side of the tree so that the child can't climb up and get over the fence. And he was absolutely right, because if you think about it, a 4-year-old could climb up into the tree and get over the fence and be in the pool area.
Piece of cake, fun.
Yeah, piece of cake. It's a challenge, exactly.
Sure.
So we went ahead and put the fence around this side of the tree so the child can't get to the tree, and the tree stays inside the fenced area.
So Bob, you think you have everything protected here. You've got a great fence. But what would stop, let's say, a 4-year-old from taking this chair right here and putting it up to the gate and lifting the latch?
Absolutely nothing. And that's why we talk about locking the gates when you're not using them and getting kids into water safety classes. There are things that you need to do with your children as far as water safety, and there are locks and latches that you can use to keep them from doing that. A 2-year-old is much different than a 4-year-old. And they're watching you. They're able to know that if you pull up on this latch and pull out, you can open this gate.
Safety experts advise you to be very candid about the dangers of a swimming pool. Let them know your concerns. And most importantly, get them involved in water safety classes at a very early age.
Swim classes are offered to children as young as 6 months. For Alex Hodges of Phoenix, water classes are one part of the whole picture of water safety for her 20-month-old son, Bryce.
We have a pool, and he loves the water. He's always loved the water since he was a baby. And he has no fear. I want him to be comfortable. I want him to know what to do. I want to know what to do in the water, and I just think it's really important that he learns safety from day one.
And if you're ever in trouble, you can call for help.
To be safe is to stay focused. Take your child with you if you become distracted. And always watch your children around water, anytime.
Prize and cherish every moment with your kids and realize that no matter if they're 3 or 4 and they're good swimmers, they can still get in the pool, and they always need adult supervision.
He was full of life. Everybody loved him. He was a magnet. He had so many friends. He loved bugs. He loved fire trucks. He wanted to drive a fire truck. He loved his mom. He loved animals. He was awesome. He was very special.